My name is Peadar Lawlor. I work in the pig department in Teagasc in Moore Park, and I'm going to speak about low-cost salmonella control strategies for use on Irish pig farms. And this is a project that is funded by the Department of Agriculture in Ireland. So there's a number of partners involved. We're probably, Teagasc is involved obviously, but you also have UCD in the form of Nola Leonard, and you have WIT, Waterford Institute of Technology, Gillian Gardner, and the students working on that study are Helen Lynch and Kavita Walia. And we had a really good postdoc, Hector Rodriguez, who has left us recently. Yeah, this is a really interesting project because salmonella in pigs is an issue. A baseline study in 2008 showed that 20% of pig carcasses are contaminated with salmonella in the factory. So this is an issue. There's a food safety issue there. The problem is, I suppose, there's a problem maybe at processor level, but there's a problem at producer level because we still have a high number of high salmonella prevalence farms in the country. And despite bringing in a new program or salmonella control program in 2010, we haven't made huge improvements with regard to reducing salmonella seroprevalence. And I suppose as part of this project, what we wanted to do was look at practical implementation things that we could do at farm level to help to reduce salmonella prevalence. So we're trying to reduce shedding, so that's the salmonella in the feces. We're trying to reduce seroprevalence, which is an indicator of whether the pigs have come in contact with salmonella before or not, and carriage, which is probably the most important thing. So we're trying to reduce salmonella in the cecal contents and the ileocecal lymph nodes. So there's a number of aspects to this trial, and I'm only reporting on some of them, and that's to do with some of the first aspect would be to do with on-farm trials, and we also are doing some work in the lairage area in the abattoirs. But first of all, with regard to the finisher pig work or the on-farm work, I suppose we're doing work with weaners, and we're doing work with finishers, and we're doing work with sows. I'm only reporting here on the finishers because that is the closest area to the slaughter plant, really. So we conducted 3 trials with finisher pigs, 2 of those with sodium butyrate, which was a coated sodium butyrate. So that's a salt of an organic acid, and we also used a blend of formic, citric and essential oils in another trial. And in one of the trials with the sodium butyrate, we got a reduction in salmonella shedding after a period of about 28 days feeding the diet prior to slaughter. We got some reductions in seroprevalence in all of the trials. We got no reductions in carriage, so our cecal content, our prevalence in the cecum and the ileocecal lymph nodes remained the same regardless of whether they were given the acid or not. So we did a sort of a cost-benefit analysis on these acids, and despite them not having significantly improved growth rate or feed efficiency, there was still a cost benefit in using the sodium butyrate in one of the trials. And in the second trial, we found no benefit. It was actually costing money to use the sodium butyrate, and that was because there was another infection, an ileitis infection on that farm also. So the sodium butyrate worked and was cost beneficial when you didn't have another disease problem on the unit, but when there was another disease issue, you had issues with regard to cost benefit. The formic and the citric acid blend actually cost an additional 8 cents per kilo live weight gain, so it wasn't cost beneficial to use that particular intervention. We also looked, as part of that study in the abattoir, so we looked at cleaning strategies in the abattoir. Like, your pigs go into an abattoir, they remain in the lairage for up to 4 hours prior to slaughter. If pigs are naive, have no salmonella, they come into the factory, they can pick up salmonella from the environment. It only takes 2 hours after exposure for that salmonella to find its way into the intestines, and there is a risk at evisceration of that getting spilt onto the carcass. So we're looking at cleaning regimes to try and reduce environmental contamination with salmonella in the lairage. And what we looked at was, I suppose we looked at, just plain washing with water, the use of a detergent. We looked at 2 different disinfectants, quaternary ammonium chloride and a chlorocresol-based disinfectant. And then we also looked at drying as another step in the cleaning regime. We found that where we used the chlorocresol instead of the quaternary ammonium chloride, which is a cheaper disinfectant, we got an improvement, we got a reduction all the time in terms of salmonella prevalence in the lairage. All the way through the step, if you wash, you use detergent, you use the chlorocresol disinfectant, even at that stage you're still up at around 2% or 3% prevalence of salmonella in the lairage. And it was only when you introduced a drying step additional to the disinfection in a lairage that was probably drying over the weekend, you got a total elimination of salmonella from the lairage environment. So look, the control measures or the cleaning strategy used in the lairage is also applicable for use on farms. So farmers know now that they can go out there and they can use chlorocresol. It's more expensive than the quaternary ammonium chloride, but it's much more effective against salmonella. And I suppose that work also highlights the importance of drying, allowing pens to dry out so that you get a total elimination of salmonella from the environment.